What's up, YouTube? This is Dave's Had Enough 27. This is another video to do with American Horror Story, My Roanoke Nightmare, which may be just Roanoke now, if you noticed with the episode. Episode 5, Chapter 5, Review. And another video from Dave. And yeah, pretty much this is my weekly review for American Horror Story, Roanoke Nightmare? Not My Roanoke Nightmare, or whatever they were calling it. If you notice, they did change it in the episode to Roanoke. So pretty much I have to say from last week's episode, which in my opinion last week I have to say was the least favorite of all the episodes, including this one. This one picked up right where the weeks before picked up, like how good as it was. This episode was really good. But they really, with this episode, they just really, it looked to me, they wrapped everything up. It seemed like last week's episode, they crammed so much into it, I guess, to get this shit done with. For this week, to finish it off and get it all done with, to send us, who knows? Send us, I don't know where. Because if you see the promo for next week, they got a guy that's basically with the camera, I believe his name is, Cheyenne or something, I believe his name is Cheyenne Jackson. I think that's his name. He's the interviewer. They call him the My Roanoke interviewer, and he's basically telling them follow the cameras are always rolling, even if I say not to. Something along the lines of that. So I don't know where it's going, but let's recap the episode. I will go over key parts of the episode, important parts, give you my thoughts, and review it, give it a score, call it a night. Alright, pretty much this episode starts off with a historian, and her name is Doris Kearns Goodwin. Basically telling the story of the person that owned the house, who built the house, who built the cellar, I assume. And it's for, who everybody's been waiting for, Evan Peters. I guess when, when he appeared in this episode, the fucking internet was going crazy. People love Evan Peters. He's a really good addition to the show. I liked all his characters, especially last season when he played, pretty much the guy that was they took H.H. Holmes, America's first serial killer. Ryan Murphy did his own version of him. I thought it was one of his best roles in American Horror Story. It was last season. That's the one thing I liked about last season a lot. That's where I kind of didn't think it was a bad... I thought it was, out of all the seasons, the second worst season, but I still liked it. Worst being Freak Show, but that was what I really liked about last season, was Evan Peters', character. I thought it was great. So... they pretty much tell the story of... Now, Evan Peters' character is Edward Philippe Mott, I believe the name of it. I think that's the name of his character. And pretty much they tell the story of how the house was built. He basically was a person that inherited a lot of money from his parents. So, he's pretty much rich because of his parents. He likes art. He pretty much just wants to be with his art. He just likes his art. He hates people. And he pretty much has servants, which are slaves. And when they're building the house, you may notice, people are falling off the scaffolds and shit and dying. And he don't really even care. All he cares about is art. At one scene, he's, looking at his art. And this guy, falls off a scaffold and dies. And he don't even care, which I thought was crazy. So you can tell he's just into his art. He has a servant, main servant, which I believe his name is Guinness, and that's his lover. Evan Peters, his character is gay this season. And pretty much, when they get the house built and everything, then he has all his art set up. And then all of a sudden, I guess the butcher goes in there, fucking fucks all his art up. He gets fucking pissed. Has all the servants in one area telling him who did it. Tell me now, and nobody's confessing. He ends up putting them in the cellar. So that's what we know where the cellar came from. He put his servants in there, threw some rotten fruit in there. He said, fight over that, Then he tells his, one main servant, Guinness, he tells him, he says, hey, because Guinness wasn't happy with, quote me if I'm wrong, I think his name is Guinness. He wasn't happy with what was going on. He says, he pretty much says, know your role. He says, you're a servant first before my lover, He gets mad, leaves. Then pretty much the butcher ends up getting, Edward Philippe Mott ends up fucking staking him and then I think burning him. And then it goes from that to where we picked up last week, and it starts with a 911 call, and basically the butcher's outside, they got the fucking torches going, and pretty much at that point you see them running, and then this fucking like grudge monster shows up out of nowhere. That's what I call them. Ever since the Grudge, really where it originated from, that grudge monster, where they got the idea was the fucking Exorcist, where she's coming down the stairs. That's where it all came from. But then, the Grudge, ever since the Grudge, they have used this monster throughout a lot of stuff, which I thought was really creepy in this show. I like when it was like crawling on the wall, and you see Matt looking at the wall, and it's like crawling on the wall. It grabbed Flora and like threw her. They get Flora, end up in the basement, and that's when they run into Edward Philippe Mott. And he basically helps them and takes them through an underground tunnel that he built as far as he can, because he's a ghost. They, halfway through the tunnel, they, pretty much ask him, are you a ghost? And he says, yeah. And they're like, why are you doing this? Basically because he don't want no more people dying on his land, because it's his land, and he just wants to be basically, with the fewer people, the better. Pretty much, that's what he tells them. And when he gets to a certain point, he tells them he can't go no further. And then all of a sudden you think the ghosts get him. More ghosts grab the family, grab Flora and Shelby and Matt. But it's actually this crazy, like, cannibal family. And we actually learn where Dr. Ellis Cunningham was. When those people that bowed him was actually the cannibal family, which was that house where those crazy fucking kids were that were pretty much drinking from the boar. Its milk, which was fucking very creepy and disturbing. So pretty much, they have Dr. Ellis on the table. They have his leg like cut off. He's telling Shelby, pretty much kill me. He's like, this family's fucking crazy. They're trying to feed Matt and Shelby and Flora, pretty much his leg, which one of the family members eats his leg and says, they're like, this tastes nasty. And they're like, then they all go over there and just fucking, the crazy cannibal mother, her name is Mama Poke. She tells them, kill him, and they end up, like, bashing him in the head, which I thought was a really cool scene. So then, after that scene, you have, pretty much, and they say, too, that the Mama Poke says that she would kill them, but she's gonna bring them to the butcher lady, because they have, like, an understanding from, like, the family over the years. They have, like, a truce. So basically, they're gonna be taken to, the butcher lady, which is Kathy Bates. So then it flips before they do that to Lee. And Lee's basically getting questioned for her husband's murder and, with Flora. I'm assuming, does the cops know that Flora's back? I don't think so. So they're questioning her on all that. And then she's a cop. She knows what to do. She's been through that. And then after that scene, they go to the truck scene where basically one of the Mama Poke's sons basically has a gun, pointed at Matt and Shelby, and pretty much she felt, Shelby, that, when it's hitting bumps the truck, she felt that the gun could have went off at any time, which I would have felt too, and pretty much Matt feels that this is his only chance. He pretty much goes for the gun with his son, ends up shooting the driver, the other son, and then they crash. I think the one guy flies out first after he shoots the one son driving, and then they crash. This is the part I didn't understand. Why didn't they steal that truck? Why didn't they get in that fucking truck and get the fuck out of there? That was one thing that made no sense, and there's another scene we'll get to that I'll tell you that didn't make any sense to me either. I would have grabbed that fucking truck, booted her out of there while she was unconscious, the Mama Poke, or whatever the hell her name is. Throw the son, the other son's gone, get the fuck out of there, leave, but it is what it is. And also, too, when he got shot, Dr. Ellis Cunningham, those were the, the crazy, which I call them cannibal family. Those are the people that got him with the bows. So that made sense from last, couple episodes ago. So basically, after that, pretty much, I believe it goes to... they run and end up getting caught again, and by one of the sons that fell out of the truck. He's got the gun. They end up, they look like they're going to bash Matt in the leg, but they end up bashing Shelby in the leg, pretty much pulling a Misery, a Kathy Bates, like hitting him with the fucking sledgehammer, if you ever saw Misery in the leg. They do that to Shelby, because he knows, the mother, Mama Poke, knows that Matt's not going to run without Shelby, so why not just injure her? He thought he was going to do it to, she was going to do it to him, and he says, do whatever you want to me, don't do nothing to her. She bashes her in the leg. So pretty much after that part, they bring them back to the house, pull up, and pretty much give them to the butcher. And then after that part, the cops actually pull up with Lee. This is what I don't understand. The cops pull up with Lee. The cop leaves Lee after she says, we need to help him, when the cop seen what was going on. And then the crazy part is, where did Lee get a car? Where did she just get a car to run into them, and end up hitting them? I don't understand that. How'd she do that? And then you have the son that basically did not want to do it no more. The son ghost of the butcher, did not want to spill no more blood on the land. He's just, he wasn't with it, with the whole thing she was doing when he was human. So he basically gets tired of doing it, what they've been doing it for years. You got Lee pulling up in a car, hitting, I forgot who she hit, but she pulls up in the car, gets them in the car, and I'm thinking, how did Lee, where did she get the car from? Where would she run in the house, get the keys, come out? You know what I'm saying? So that's another part that didn't make any sense to me. So pretty much after that part, then you have them basically, Kathy Bates, her son, ends up pulling her into the fire, and then she comes out the fire, they're driving off. So then they pretty much end up at a motel, and they go the cheapest one they find till her sister can wire some money and they can get back to, I believe, Los Angeles. And that was pretty much it. I thought it was a pretty good show. I thought the episode was great. There was just those two parts that didn't make any sense to me. One of the parts, that with Dr. Ellis being cut up and how he got, a couple weeks ago, that kind of answered that question. Who are the people with the bows? Basically, this crazy cannibal family that eats people. But I didn't understand the car scenes. I didn't understand, or the truck in the car scene. I didn't understand why they didn't get in that truck. And where the hell did she get a car from right away to run into them? So that didn't really, what was it? They hit the pig man, right? Yeah, I think she hit the pig man. So yeah, pretty much we learned who Evan Peters was. He was not the pig man, like my buddy Daniel Rodriguez. I watched his review. He mentioned that. I thought it was too, Evan Peters. I had to agree with him, because if you've seen the prior weeks, they had Evan Peters, so I thought maybe that was him, but it wasn't. Pretty much now where they're going with this direction of the show, they wrapped everything up, and then if you see the promo, you basically have the My Roanoke Nightmare interviewer, Cheyenne Jackson, I believe his name is, and he's telling them still roll the cameras. So I don't know if they're going to do some stuff like after the fact with the regular actors, the people telling the story, and we're not going to see Cuba Gooding Jr. or the other lady no more. I don't know if that's how it's going to go, and they're going to, follow the family and shit's going to get crazy afterwards. Because you got to think, you got Devil's Night coming up, and with Devil's Night, they can leave, on Halloween, they can leave the land, so maybe the butcher will go for her and her family. They'll go with her, basically the crazy fucking lynch mob, she'll go after them, so on Devil's Night. So that's what I'm kind of predicting with the whole thing of how they're going to go after, Shelby and Matt after the fact. So we'll see. I like this episode. If I had to review it, last week I gave it, I believe it was an 8. The week before that I gave it a 9. This week I have to say, I thought it was a pretty good episode. If I had to give it a fair score, I would give it a 8.7. I actually liked it a lot better than last week. I thought it was a pretty damn good episode. Just where do we go from here? That's the only thing. Where is it going to go? Next week will be the 6th episode. We're halfway through the season and we're already done, it seems like. So I'm assuming the cameras are still going to roll. They're going to find out, follow Matt and Shelby. Maybe something's going to happen, or they're going to go to Roanoke and actually be like a ghost team or some shit. That could be what could be happening. I never really thought of that till now. They could probably be like a paranormal team or something, and maybe do a documentary on house, staying at the house. Who knows where it's going to go. But yeah, that's my review, guys. Tell me what you think in the comment section, and more videos to come. Thank you, YouTube.